Matthews in the Morning. Tomorrow at 5 on News Radio 1000 KTOK. A shot of JD that won't get you a DUI. Hands at 10 at 2. Here comes The Drive with Jason Doyle.
News Radio 1000 KTOK. Thanks for coming on board for The Drive. I'm Jason Doyle. And I got her hooked up. Oh my goodness, the sound when the Thunder take the court on Saturday night against the Dallas Mavericks. The Jason Doyle compound and entertainment complex will be fully loaded with a very visual and audio experience like none other experience there at that location. I got my sound bar hooked up to my TV today. Yeah, it's looking pretty good for the playoffs. 4K playoffs. It's going to be awesome. And just in case you don't know what 4K is, it's a new designation. It's a ultra high definition part. Most high definition standards, it's 1080p, something like that. And then 4K is supposed to be that next level, and they're supposed to even have 8K type of television resolution in the future. And the only thing the new TV doesn't have is a curve. And I think I might try that the next go-round. And, of course, the next go-round, they may be implanting these things in us by that time. Hey, what's on television? Oh, let me think. You know, might be a little like Clockwork Orange or something. Yeah, that's going way back. There's some folks that might go, Clockwork Orange, I don't quite know. Stanley Kubrick, great movie. Malcolm McDowell's in it. It's definitely a Kubrick movie. If you don't know who Stanley Kubrick is, man, you need to check out his films because they are just crazy, and good. So it's one of those things. I guess one of these days I'm going to become a filmmaker. I keep on talking about it like it's a hobby. That's my hobby, talking about becoming a filmmaker. Hey, on the show today, we're gonna tackle the new fervor over some of the efforts to modernize Oklahoma's liquor laws. This time around, we're going to have from the Distilled Spirits Council, Dale Sendrowski. Got his name right, I hope. But he's going to come and visit because they're not exactly for Senate Joint Resolution 68 and the companion bill, the Senate Bill 383, I think is what it is. And there's reasons why they're not for it. They still want to see Oklahoma modernize its law. It doesn't have a problem with certain aspects of the modernization efforts, but they've got a couple of issues, and they're kind of looking out for the local liquor store owners on that. Today, also, we may not find out the fate of Oklahoma City School Superintendent Rob New. It was a media fervor earlier this week as rumors surfaced that Mr. New had announced to certain members of the school board that might be resigning now. And then there was that statement, I have not resigned, blah, 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 blah. I'm disappointed in the media, blah, 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 blah. No further comment at this time, blah, blah, blah. So tonight, 5:30 at 900 North Klein, that's when the Oklahoma City School Board gathers in executive session to discuss Mr. New's future with the Oklahoma City School District. Let's see here. There was something else that was... Oh, yeah! UConn had a city meeting last night. You know, my favorite town to talk about. You know, and I really do like UConn. It's just infuriating, though, when something so bad happens that people are losing their jobs, and it's not their fault. It's really I kind of still lay blame at the elected officials. They weren't paying attention to what was going on. And it just seems like it's an attention span thing. But they're supposedly on the road to recovery, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. That ought to be fun. And we've got baseball tickets to give away. Oklahoma City Dodgers for this Sunday family 4-pack, and I'm going to torture the person who wins the tickets. You're going to have to do something, jump through hoops, so to speak. I'll explain a little bit later. Coming up next, Dale Sendrowski of Distilled Spirits Council going to join us to talk about Oklahoma's modernization efforts right here on The Drive with Jason Doyle, News Radio 1000 KTOK. News Radio 1000 KTOK. Hey, cheers to you if you've been able to keep up with all the stuff that's going on with Oklahoma's modernization efforts for its liquor laws. I mean, there's so many live rounds going on around here. Initiative petitions, there's legislative action, and all that kind of good stuff. But it's legislative action we're going to focus on now as my guest, Dale Sendrowski. Dale, did I get that right? Oh, wait, hold on. Dale, I've got to hit a button. Dale, how are you?
I'm doing well, and thank you for zeroing in on this issue. It is a little controversial in some respects.
Yeah, it's one of those things. And Dale Sendrowski, you're with the Distilled Spirits Council of the United States, and you're kind of getting involved with with some of the matters here in Oklahoma when it comes to what could happen to our small businesses via really what they are, our liquor stores, our family-owned businesses.
Correct. There's a couple of pieces of legislation out there. One that is moving forward, and it's being touted as modernizing Oklahoma's liquor laws, and it's called SJR 68, which would put before the voters in November the ability to open up antiquated liquor laws in Oklahoma, and basically bringing 4,000 new strong beer and wine outlets in grocery store and convenience stores. But what is being overlooked in the, quote, market modernization for the Oklahoma voters to decide is what happens to the choice in what kind of products you want. You'll be getting strong beer and wine, but you're going to be leaving out distilled spirits by eliminating a number of package stores. And they're not going to go away all of a sudden. But through attrition, because consumers won't be going into the package stores, you're going to lose about half of those mom-and-pop liquor stores all around the state. And that's going to limit the amount of choices that consumers really have. And over time, you're going to be left with fewer products on the shelves and fewer choices for Oklahoma consumers. And we think that there's a better way to do it. And unfortunately, the legislature has decided to pick some winners and losers in this game.
So, Dale, what would you like to see happen with Oklahoma's liquor laws? I mean, right now the people are pushing. They'd like to see that strong beer, and they'd like to see that wine in the grocery stores. But what would you like to see happen?
Well, you know, we're all in favor of modernization as long as it's fair and balanced, Jason. What we think is a better and more fair way to do it is to do it in an orderly process of market transition. Allow what we would call a medallion process for those small mom-and-pop liquor stores within a certain geographic area of a grocery store to have the ability to let that grocery store buy that package store license. We're not talking about creating 4,000 new package stores, but what we are talking about is if you're going to come in and put in strong beer and wine in a grocery store, you should give some value to that local business that's been in business for a long time and played fairly by the current rules to allow him to sell that license to the grocery store chain and convert it that way. That way, A, the small mom and pop, if he decides he wants to get out of that business, he has an opportunity to sell that store. And B, consumers are left in that same geographic area with the same amount of choices that they have now. But unfortunately, the Senate and now the House, it appears, has decided to, again, pick winners and losers. And the losers are going to be the small mom-and-pop liquor stores as well as consumers and having fewer choices. And just one other little nugget on that, where they're picking winners and losers, under the guise of modernizing Oklahoma liquor laws, they're also changing the distribution system to put a lot of small wine and spirit distributors and brokers out of business, and that's tucked into there. And one last little interesting nugget, there's what they call trailer legislation coming along, Senate Bill 383, which has been kept so secret that not even the House sponsor has seen it yet. It's all wrapped up in the Senate. So we think that there's a better way to do this, and it's certainly not the direction it's going in now.
All right. And it sounds like you might be on the side of the Retail Liquor Association of Oklahoma. They've started their own initiative petition to help, I think, put in some of the ideas that you just shared, especially that phasing in and with the licenses.
Yeah, Jason, it's worked in in another state where laws needed to be modernized, but they did it in an orderly transition. And yes, we are trying to work together, but we're having a hard time breaking through, and that's where we think the consumers in Oklahoma should really kind of weigh in on this and be made aware of all the facts, not just the catchy phrase of modernizing Oklahoma's liquor laws.
All right. Dale Sandrowski is on the line with me. He's with the Distilled Spirits Council. Dale, we've got to take a break, so I'm going to put you on hold for a minute. We'll be back right after the short break. Continue our conversation about what could be the future of Oklahoma's liquor laws right here on The Drive with Jason Doyle, News Radio 1000, KTOK. News Radio 1000 KTOK, it is The Drive. I am Jason Doyle. Just a reminder, sometime during the show today, I'm going to torture one lucky winner for a 4-pack of Oklahoma City Dodgers tickets. Happens this Sunday. It's a game for this Sunday, so you got to be able to pick up the tickets tomorrow during office hours here at 50 Penn Place and the iHeartMedia Complex. And right before the break, we were having a conversation about Oklahoma's effort to modernize its liquor laws with Dale. I'm sorry, Dale Sandrowski. I'm going to get it right, Dale.
Just like Smith.
Yes, just like Smith. But it's Distilled Spirits Council is where you're from. And we were talking a little bit about, there's a different way you guys could see the way forward as far as being a little bit more equitable when it comes to modernizing Oklahoma's laws.
Correct. And, there's also one other point here, Jason, that is being lost in the discussion, that policies that discriminate against one form of alcohol serve only to perpetuate, a dangerous misperception that somehow there's a soft alcohol versus a hard alcohol. And the fact is, alcohol's alcohol. There is no beverage of moderation, only a practice of moderation. And when you put forward, like I had mentioned earlier, 4,000 new strong beer and wine outlets and take away consumer choices by limiting the number of package stores out there with their wide array of choices through the process of economic elimination, you're sending the wrong social message to consumers out there. And so that's one of the other hidden facts in here. But we do believe that, there is a better way to approach this. And there's still time. They can still amend the bill, change it, and help protect some of those small businesses. And it's not just the package stores, as I'd mentioned. They're also not talking about it much, but they're changing the distribution system there also. And that's going to eliminate a lot of the small competitors that keep prices down in the state of Oklahoma.
I know there's going to be a lot of messaging that's going forward because it looks like we may have competing initiatives when it comes to this November's election. How will you work with others to make sure your message doesn't get diluted by the others?
Well, our intention is to work closely with what we consider our allies and good business partners, the package store retail outlets, and moving forward together to have a unified message and get that out there to the consumers and possibly on the ballot.
And you also wrote a letter to Speaker Jeff Hickman and kind of outlining the Distilled Spirits Council view on what's going on, and basically summarize what you told Speaker Hickman in that letter.
Well, basically, a lot of the themes that we've touched on here, but part of it is, the fairness and equitable process going forward. As I'd mentioned earlier, SGR 68 is moving forward, and the legislation that's coming along supposedly behind it, up to 400 pages that no one has seen, we think that it needs to be a fair and open process, and it hasn't been that. The folks who are going to lose their jobs and then the consumer choices really haven't had a chance to allow their propositions to be put forward in the legislation. It's just been written behind closed doors and then presented to legislators. And we've asked them to open up that process and to allow others to have their amendments put into the bill.
So once again, Dale, before we wrap things up, we got about a minute left till we got to go to a news break. But it's the stance, from what I'm gathering from the Distilled Spirits Council, that there's nothing wrong with modernizing laws. Let's just make sure everybody's going to get a fair shake out of this deal.
You're absolutely right, Jason, and I think bringing that to your listeners is a great service that you're doing, and hopefully they're going to take action and reach out to their legislator and say, hey, open the process up, keep it fair and equitable and balanced, and let us have true choice.
All right, that's Dale Sandrowski. See, you got it, just like Smith. Distilled Spirits Council. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day. I know you're busy. You're not just in Oklahoma. You're traveling around this part of the United States. So I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to join us here on The Drive.
Well, thank you, Jason, for letting me be on and for bringing this important topic up to your listeners.
Oh, anytime it comes to liquor, you can better believe that I'll be talking about it at one point in time. All right, that's Dale Sandrowski. I really appreciate him joining. And let's hit a news break and more fun and merriment coming up afterwards right here on The Drive with Jason Doyle.